Alright, what is up guys? Losermaniac here, and welcome to, this. You guys can probably tell by the title. Let me explain something. Alright, I get it. This has probably been made already, so I do want to usher a warning. I don't watch a lot of build videos on YouTube. I only watch like 2 or 3 off of Extra Life, and Extra Life did not make a sniper build. So if I copy someone, I apologize in advance. I am willing to admit that. Second, this may be different. It may be a bit weird to go through, because the weapon I use can only be found like late in the game. Where unlike some other sniper characters, you can find them in other sniper weapons you can find in Act 1, which is the Nikomata. So for this purpose, I will issue a warning. Like, I understand that this may not be a good one. I'm pretty dumb. So if you also check the description, there will be all the information needed. The iPad is back, so I do have all the information written down, as well as some notes here that kind of talk about what it is, because I know some of these I don't. Also, I do want to mention a few things. In this, I have cool and reflexes labeled. And with this gun, you will need I'll go over everything in a moment, but I do want to let you know, whenever I made this character, I used intelligence. Now, some of you guys may think that for this character, intelligence may not be useful, but I use mass vulnerability, which helps me out plenty and makes this character a bit better. So, this is my Cyberpunk build. It's going to be the only one, because otherwise I'd just be copying everyone else. So yeah, if there's any like side notes, I'll add it here. So yeah, I'll add them when I can. So yeah, so let's start off with cool. Alright, stealth perks. Crouching Tiger. This just increases sneak speed. I don't have the exact percentages, so I will go over like what they are. I won't go over exact percentages because I'm too stupid to remember all that. Silent and Deadly. This increases damage to sneaked weapons, or silenced weapons. Sneak weapons. The fuck am I talking about? Strike from the Shadows. Increases crit chance by 15% while sneaking. That's the only percentage I know, because I have that maxed down on my character. Which is only one of. A pretty useful one, especially considering the fact that the weapon you're going to be using takes massive advantage of a silencer, which doesn't really decrease the damage. At least I don't think so. I never noticed the increase or decrease in damage. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but if you don't know what weapon I'm talking about, well, I'll go over that in a moment. Sniper. This just increases damage to headshots when not in combat. From the Shadows, which I find funny because there's strike from the shadows, and then there's just from the shadows. From the Shadows increases crit chance by 25% for 7 seconds when entering combat. Now that is just the base line of it. I don't think I have both of them maxed out on my character. If I do, I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah. Now, with some of these, you can increase, or you can add more that you feel like benefits your character. But with stealth, there really isn't much you can do, because a lot of it is just either weapons or knife stuff, like knife throwing stuff. So with that being said, there is one I would recommend. Maybe is Rattlesnake, which increases, or which makes you completely immune to poison. Now there is a clothing mod and cyberware that has that. So I'd say if you're worried about poison, which you really shouldn't, because the only 100% guaranteed location that there will be poison is if you fight Nash during Ghost Town with Pan Am. That's the only time I'd ever see poison ever. like with there's like a 100% guarantee. So I'd be careful with that one. So yeah, cold blood perks, cold blood, obviously. You want to max all of these out. I think I have some that aren't maxed out. So yeah, you'll want to max out all of these to get the best rewards, unless you find it unnecessary. There is one perk that goes well with this, but it doesn't work. It's Merciless. If it does work, then I don't know about it. So yeah. Next is Critical Condition. And I forgot to write what cold blood does, so you'll have to excuse me if I don't tell you what it is. Critical Condition. It increases cold blood chances or increases cold blood duration by a certain amount of seconds. I think it's 5 and then 10 seconds. I don't know if there's a third one. If there is a third one, then it's probably 15 seconds. Frozen Precision. Increases headshot damage. The only time that cold blood would not be necessary, and it's one that I feel like every build that uses guns that uses headshots should have, because it's the only perk in this cold blood list that doesn't need cold blood doesn't need to have cold blood to work. Next is Coldest Blood. Increases the max amount of cold blood stacks you can have by 1. Coagulant. Decreases cold blood stacks over time as opposed to all at once. So like if you take Coldest Blood, you would usually get a max stack of 4, but once cold blood is over, or once the timer for cold blood is gone, instead of it being gone altogether, you now have 3 stacks of it, and then 2, and so on. Unbreakable, basically the same as Coldest Blood, just increases the stacks of cold blood by 1. Now, cold blood has a lot of really good ones that this uses. The only one I know for a fact doesn't work is Icy Veins. So you can basically use whatever you want. It is fine. Alright, sorry about that. My sister contacted me, so I'm just had to stop me recording. So yeah. So I have to pull up my list again because luckily I did watch the video, so I know where we left off. So yeah, a lot of cold blood perks are really useful. Like I mentioned already, Icy Veins is the only one. Icy Veins and Merciless are working, or at least to my knowledge they aren't. So if they are, you can use that. I realized that with a lot of these, perks don't work. Not all of them work. So I'd say be careful with that. Alright, so next we are moving on to the assault perks in the Reflex skill. First one is Bulletjock, which increases damage to rifles and submachine guns. Now, we are using a sniper rifle. Keep in mind, I'm not sure if sniper rifles fall under rifles. I understand it's a sniper rifle, but they do mention a rifle, which I think most rifles include submachine guns. So I guess in essence, the rifles is submachine guns, or is sniper rifles like the Nikomata, and the Tektronika Grad stuff. So yeah. Next is Bullseye, which increases damage while aiming. You are using a sniper rifle. That is a pretty useful one to have. Named Bullets increases crit damage. Because who doesn't like crit damage, you know? Next is Nerves of Steel. Increases sniper rifles and precision rifle damage. I understand that, like, there aren't really a lot of precision rifles. I only know of one 100% guaranteed chance to find a precision rifle, which is why I advise using the Nikomata. And then once you head over to one of the Assault and Progresses in Watson, there is a precision rifle. Sorry if I get shivery. I'm wearing sleeveless arms, and I forgot how cold it is out in this living room. So yeah. Next is Trench Warfare. Increased damage when firing from behind cover. This is actually pretty useful because sniper rifles aren't really out in the open, and you will be using cover a lot to hide in. So something like that is pretty useful. I love these sort of behind cover perks, as you'll see with my next one. But I also, just in general, I love sorry, let me adjust my camera a bit. I just love firing from behind cover because unlike I don't really see a lot of that stuff unless it's in like Ghosts. But that's about it because I barely play Call of Duty Ghosts. And with this is pretty interesting also. So, next is covering Killshot. Increased crit chance when firing from behind cover. Again, firing from behind cover is pretty useful. So this is absolutely awesome to use. Which obviously this does take advantage of, if it wasn't obvious, and I mentioned this 1,000 times already in this video probably, this does take advantage of using the behind cover stuff. Which is good because it minimizes how much damage you take unless the enemy you're using, or unless the enemy you're going up against is using a tech weapon, a smart weapon, or mostly a Nikomata weapon. But yeah. So yeah. Next is Executioner. An increased damage to enemies with health above 50%. Not your health, the enemies. I kind of wrote, the way I worded this, it made it seem like your health has to be above 50%. So I just want to specifically clarify that this increases damage to enemies who have a health of 50% and above. And this is actually pretty good because the weapon you will be using already does high enough damage, and especially with headshots, you're going to be racking up a lot of that damage. Hunter's Hands. Reduce recoil when aiming behind cover. Again, this is one of those questionable ones where I'm not sure if it works well. And if it does, I don't know if it works well enough to consider using this, but I use it because sniper rifles as a whole have like massive recoil, so something like this is pretty useful. Next, and this is one of the only optional ones I have, Long Shot. Increase damage to enemies the further away from you they are. The reason I say this is optional is because this is mostly like the Outer Worlds. There aren't really that many enemies at a long distance, and if there is, it wouldn't be that useful. A lot of these are close quarters, so I would that's kind of reason. The only thing I would say that is worth the long distance is if you're going up against Atom Smasher during either if you're doing Pan Am's ending, or if you're using Pan Am and the Aldecados to storm Arasaka Tower, or if you're using Johnny, Rogue, and Wayland's son, whatever. But other than that, I don't think there's any because Atom Smasher ends up so far away, and Oda, and again, I only think of this as like bosses, because bosses are what's really sort of something to keep in mind when it comes to these enemies. I also find whenever I was playing this build with people like Oda and Atom Smasher, it was really fun to like use them as targets, especially with Atom Smasher. He was an interesting one. So yeah, so that's why I say Long Shot is pretty questionable. But when it came to using when it came to thinking about all of these assault perks, I kept thinking of that area where Nash is whenever you fight him or attack him and kill him with Pan Am during Ghost Town. So something like that is something. So that's why I say it's questionable. Plus, a lot of the assault and progresses are not so long or far away that would become an issue. So yeah, that is all I have here. Assault perks, a lot of them I wouldn't find really again, when it came to this, I didn't want to put in perks that didn't work for the weapons you would be using, or just something that I find wasn't really necessary in the first place. One of them, I did have one of them, which was increased reload, but then I remember that, but then I realized it's only for not sniper rifles, submachine guns. So that is something to take into account. So yeah. Another thing that I'll mention right now, I use intelligence in this. I don't have it listed here because going over to what I've been thinking was for most of the weapons you'll be using, especially the Tektronica Grad, which you can get during the wartime. That's the earliest I know of anyone being able to get it, unless you do. Is there, I think it's in Watson or whatever, there's a legendary Grad in one of the weapon stores, I think in Watson. It's either Watson or Santo Domingo. Those are the only two I'm thinking of. But, yeah, so I'd pay attention there. But the reason I say intelligence is kind of questionable, because of the fact that you do need a body of 6 to properly use the Tektronica Grad, which, if it's not, like I mentioned already at the top, if it's not obvious what you're going to be using, then whatever. So yeah, I would take some of that into account. I do use during my, because I have this list also on my phone, which what I'm recording on, which is why it's good to have this tablet now. With that, I would say, yeah, just experiment around. Be careful. I use intelligence for the mass vulnerability perks, because that just makes this build a lot more fun to, or yeah, more fun is a word, more funner isn't. So yeah, I'd say mess around a bit. There are a few body perks that are really good for this build, but overall I would say use like you can use like ping and mass vulnerability to use those. If there's, you can use a bunch of different ones, but that I would leave up to you on those. And that also kind of brings into question the whole thing with intelligence, because there are certain cyberwares you can use to make this build a lot better, such as increased crit damage and increased critical chance. I don't know the names of those cyberwares that increase them, but you do need intelligence of 15 and 16 to unlock those respective cyberwares. So I would say take that into account. And if you don't like using, or if you don't really use cyberwares, it's totally fine. I don't go out and do all these builds with cyberwares in mind for the most part. I did try and do a shotgun character, but that did not work out well. So and one of those builds, Fextral, I've mentioned that it uses like Sendavistin or Kreznikov, whatever. It's preferred to use those, but I didn't at the first time, and then I went and did a pistol build, and I realized the Sendavistin is pretty random for each of these, so I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna deal with that. But so yeah, I would say kind of limit to how the cyberware you're using and whatnot. Armor wise, if you're like me and you're just for style, then just wear whatever you find fashionable. But if you are for if you are more of a like advantage person, like if an armor has 25 armor, or if an undershirt has 25 armor while yours has 6, and you go for the 25 even though it doesn't look good for your character, you can do that 100%. I do advise using mods. But I hear bully doesn't work. I don't know how true that is. But you can do stuff that increases damage. If you want, you can get the anti-venom modification on there. So just take those into account when it comes to using this. Weapons of choice, you would be using Overwatch, obviously. This is one that I put into question mostly. So I will say, be careful with this because I don't know how well this works. When it came to Overwatch, it seemed to work just fine. One of the things that I forgot to mention, or I failed to take into account whenever I first made this, as opposed to before, is I'm used to sniping in Fallout 4, where if there's like a suppressor on a gun and you shoot an enemy behind another one, the person in front of that enemy won't notice it. But if you shoot an enemy behind another enemy, that front enemy will notice. So that is something to take into account. Plus, that's something I failed to mention, or I failed to recognize, so that's the part that kind of got me confused about Overwatch. But I would say this is definitely a good one to use, whether you're romancing Pan Am or not, or if you're doing the Autocados ending or not. I do advise, you can do the ending however you want. This isn't like Fallout 4 or New Vegas, where I talk about what endings they do, because there's no need for it. because I would say do the Pan Am ending or the Aldecados ending, but you get the Overwatch either way. You get Overwatch as like an ending, as like a ending reward along with the jacket and gorilla arms. But I would say you end up getting it anyways if you do Pan Am stuff. So I would just say endings up to you, even though I wasn't planning on talking about endings that you can do. But who cares? Life path doesn't really matter, because with this, there's really much roleplay to go off of, because it's just whatever life path you want. I could say that like V grew up in the Backers Nomad clan, and it's obvious that it would be a nomad, or grew up, or V was born and grew up in Haywood, but that would just make it obvious for Street Kid, and I don't know the corporal life path yet. Or it could be something like grew up in Haywood and worked for Arasaka. I'm not sure, but so I'm not gonna go at that. I'm just giving you guys some options here. So yeah, this is gonna be my only one, because like I mentioned before, if I try and do other ones, I kind of run the risk of copying other people. Or if anything, I copy other people, but I do add more to it. So I would say with these, keep them in mind that if you do see this and you do find another sniper character, just know, and it's exactly like this or really similar with the exception of 1 to 2 perks, just know it wasn't my intention. It's never my intention to steal from anybody. I'm not like 90% of the clout chasers on this goddamn website. Or not, I'm not saying like 90% of all YouTubers on here are clout chasers. I'm talking about like of the clout chasers, there's like 90% of them on here who are trying to steal or make some stuff up. But what I am trying to say is, if you do see one of these, and if it came out before this one, then either way, I'm not taking credit for it. So if this one came out before the one, or before the one you saw, then inspiration, great minds think alike, whatever. I'm digging myself a hole I didn't want to be a part of, or wasn't intending to be a part of. So yeah, let me know. Yeah, let me know. Does Overwatch actually work properly with silent stuff? Because usually some of the stuff is pretty obvious, but to me, this one isn't. Because I know that there are perks in cyberwares that don't work. I don't know if gun to perk works. I have no idea where I'm going with that. And since technically Overwatch has a built-in silencer, I'm not sure if those perks take that into account. If it does, then let me know in the comment section, and I will specify that, or I'll pin and like your comment, whatever I'll do. Also, like I mentioned already, check the description to see all of the perks necessary, except for intelligence and body. You could use technical ability to upgrade Overwatch even more. So you can do that. I'm just giving you 2 of the main ones that I use. But yeah, also take into account that if you do use, if you are using technical ability, you do miss out on some really good ones of intelligence and body. And if you do use body, then you are missing out on some technical and intelligence stuff, and vice versa for all of them. But yeah, I'm just here to give you guys a little heads up, or kind of like here's where this build is at. Even though I didn't hint at this at all. This was actually made almost a month ago. So I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for the right time to talk about this, and since I'm going to keep my streak going of uploading videos, I decided why not, because I haven't been playing Fallout because Cyberpunk is taking over, and I'm not talking about Cyberpunk, and I can make a video on Cyberpunk, but there isn't really much to talk about, because I like to talk about different stuff that no one really cares to talk about, and plus there's no DLC yet, so, and I'm not really good at all of these, like, iconic shit, so, yeah. So then there's that, and I talked way too much about romantic people, so here we are, me talking about my one and only build that I made. So, again, whatever. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Just gonna close this off. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below, whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and on the back up, because 17% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so to the 80%, 83% of people, close to that, who aren't subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button. It's free, click of a button, and you can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. If you do subscribe, hit that bell notification, because I don't have a schedule, even though I uploaded 3 days in a row, as I'm recording this. Yeah, Lose a Maniac, out.